I hope you've enjoyed the first few videos from the Deano story. I'm not going to keep giving you pictures of me in the car. Hopefully, if you've been following the story so far, you'll not need any more introductions from me.
Kafkas. I don't know where to start with Kafkas. I could literally do 20 chapters on Kafkas alone and how ridiculous this system is, but I can only be honest and tell my story. And for any dads watching, I believed 7 months after my son was taken, and the first time I got an email from Kafkas, I was actually relieved. And I'll tell you why. Up until that moment, I had no human to speak to at all. So my son had been taken on April the 15th and completely parental alienated for 7 months. As I've explained in previous chapters, for 6 months we tried to get hold of my son, but the only way we can get hold of my son is by ringing the mother. The police have asked her to get my son a phone. They've pleaded with her to ring me on Father's Day and birthdays, and totally ignored. My bail conditions were that I was meant to have normal child contact with my son, despite her allegation it had nothing to do with my son, but she simply stole my son on April the 15th and has isolated him from not just me, my entire family, and anyone that ever knew him in the entire 10 years is here. So when I got the email from Kafkas 7 months after struggling, I actually rung the lady 30 seconds after receiving the email, because the email said, "Hi, we're Kafkas." Now, for those of you that don't know, Kafkas stands for, I'll just look it up so I'll get it right, it stands for the Children and Family Court Advisory and Support Service. I believed as a wonderful daddy that these people would have seen all this before. The parental alienation is there. The bail conditions clearly say I should be seeing my son. I've not heard from him for 7 months. It's purely a premeditated move to Worcester to simply live in her dead mum and dad's house, inherit their money, and she simply doesn't need me anymore. But why take my son out of my life? I rung the lady. And obviously, as a father who has completely had his son ripped from his life on April the 15th, 2022, I said to her, "We're now in October. Thank you for your email. I need you to understand what's happened here." And I explained that we had had 10 years of love. My son had been in private school for the 7 years. And on April the 15th, 2022, they were meant to move to the new £1 million house that was all set up for them and ready to move into. They'd been living in my house for 7 months because it was delayed because of COVID. And on the very day she's meant to move in, she made an allegation. I smashed through her door, made up, which I proved in criminal court in January. So I was now telling her it was a made up allegation. At this point I wasn't, but I said she's made this allegation. But I'll tell you what happened in March when I'd been found not guilty. I said she's made this allegation, and that simple allegation, she simply removed my son out of my life. Now, I don't care what she's doing, but I need my son in my life. So I need you to understand that this is a premeditated move. It was a false allegation, which I've got to prove in court. And can you work it out? And I believed that that human being would clearly understand parental alienation and clearly understand what a wonderful daddy I've been. Wonderful. And not only that, a best friend of my son's mother. Loved by the school where he's been 7 years, all the parents that we do football with at weekends, everything. The next time I heard from them was in March 2023, so it's now 5 months later. I get an email that they're going to do an official interview with me by video. Now, at this point, I'd already been found not guilty in January of the allegation she had made of smashing through the door, which was a fake allegation, which I proved in criminal court. And worse, the police had a witness, which is why they got it through CPS, but the witness actually confirmed my story. He heard me knock on the door. He heard me shout, "Hello, hello." He heard talking in the thing, but at no point did he hear anyone smashing through a free locked door. So the police's own witness, which I said in the whole chapter, confirmed my story as well as my images of the door. But anyway, so I now am going to be interviewed by Kafkas. As a daddy, I'm expecting this person to have done a full investigation, Interviewed the mum, interviewed my son. You know, they'll now be interviewing me. I'm ready for a 2 hour, maybe a 3. I want to discuss this situation and where we go from here. 9:30, video call starts. This is honestly, I mean this from the bottom of my heart. I went, hiya, I'm ready for I'm there for the day. Right. Hi there. Hi. So the first question is, what was your relationship like with your son's mother? Straight away. I said, just so you know, fantastic. She was my best friend up until April the 15th, 2022. For 7 years, she'd been on the school WhatsApp group, told me where to go at what time. And me and her have never missed anything at my son's school. My son has always been a complete priority. Whatever football match he's in, rugby match, cricket match, assembly, we're there. Wonderful parents. And she was my best friend. So she's always been on a pedestal and looked after because she's my son's mother. She said, yeah, I can understand how she would see that as a pressure. I said, what do you mean by that? She went, well, no, just ladies that are put on pedestals can often see that as a pressure. I said, well, she's never mentioned it in 10 years. This is the next question. She went, okay. So you had a parking ticket issue in 2005. Oh, yeah, it was a parking ticket that was issued. They never ever sent me a copy of the parking ticket. At the time, it was a principal matter. I wanted a copy of the ticket. They never sent me a copy of the ticket. It's all over the internet. It's quite a famous story, yeah? What's that got to do with my son? That was 7 years before he was born. She went, no, but it went to court and, yeah. I said, yeah, did you? Went, yeah. That was it. I got a £500 fine. She went, yeah, okay. I said, what's that? I don't understand what's got to do with that. Was 7 years before my son was born. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, well, listen, thank you very much. That was it. My interview was over in less than 4 minutes. And I'm going to tell you something to this day. That is the only time Kafkas has ever spoke to me. They've never visited my home, where my son has lived for 10 years. They've never visited my son's school, where he's been for 7 years. They have never even been to this area in any way. They've never met any friends, family, neighbours, no one. That 4-minute interview is my entire communication with Kafkas. Based on that 4-minute interview, they have created a 35-page report on me, my son and his mother. And in that 35-page report, there is not one sentence about me as a good father. Yet, the same officer, who is based in Worcester, has visited my son's mother's house 4 times and taken 2 interviews of my son, who is now being parental alienated 18 months, including taking another interview with my son 1 month before the final court date in December 2023. 4 times, and they've never been to me, nothing. The next chapter will just show you how Kafkas then have the power to recommend to a court a decision about your children. 4 minutes. And I'm going to tell you this. In court, transcripted, Kafkas, the same lady, in my court case in December 2023, states that she video interviewed me for 1 hour and 54 minutes. And I'll tell you what I said about that in court and how that was shut down as well. Kafkas have been nothing but an utter disgrace and have literally been to a house 5 minutes from her place and completely followed any narrative that's been said to them. And to any daddy watching, if you're told that Kafkas are getting involved and you believe, thank goodness for that, they'll help like I did, just be prepared to have your guts ripped out your body.
If you like Deano stories and you want more, and you've got stories of your own that you want told, get in contact and we can sort something out.